The floor's yours, Andrea.
Okay, demo time and also last minute change. So we discussed about the ability to import JavaScript modules into the PyDot world mostly, or MicroPython world in PyScript in short. The reason being that we would like to integrate as much as possible the JS ecosystem, and especially on the main thread world, where there are a lot of libraries that do a lot of amazing things. And we have, so while this doesn't look like an issue, because before we were like, yeah, let's just trash everything on the global Ds context, window context, whatever, however you want to call it, and just import JS dot whatever, and do this. Because we are offering this worker kind of execution environment, things are not that simple, because you need to reach modules, and the worker environment itself is a sandbox for both security and non-blocking reasons. And actually, we have a lot of hooks, for instance, to inject Python code, any sort of code, also JavaScript code, but actually we don't have any utility or simplification of how to actually import a JavaScript module, either in the worker itself or from the main thread, for the main thread, to work in the main thread from a worker. And so we thought that this would be a cool issue or problem to solve. And yeah, I've been working on this. Before that, I've been thinking about this. We had the discussion in Discord, and I would like to present you the current status, and I'll try to be as quick as I can. But here comes the demo. Share screen. I'll try. Can I share my screen? I hope so. Is it sharing my whole screen? Can you see my whole screen?
We can see your screen, Andrea.
Okay. Yep. All right. Without wasting your time, I would like to show you where we are, or where I am at this point with the implementation and ideas. So first of all, when we discussed this, Nicholas came around and say, hey, I have maybe a use case for this. How about we try to use some, I don't know, some map on the page and see how it works. So the goal of this demo is to show that we can have map on the page, and it works in the main thread, in the worker thread, and in the hybrid way, which I'm going to explain. So these are all leaflet maps, and these are all Python driven. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this to work with MicroPython. So the initial delay, the slightly delay you can see, is because PyDot Bootstrap takes a little while compared to MicroPython. And so that's it. But they are all working fine. So I can zoom out. Here is, I'm just using leaflet defaults, which is in London. And so you can enjoy either London, or you can surf the rest of the world. It's pretty snappy. But this is not because PyDot is doing, or PyScript is doing any magic. Is because leaflet library itself, it's pretty cool and pretty fast and everything.
And Andrea, I'm not sure you can see, but I've got my hand up for a question. I must apologize.
Ready? Okay, go for it.
I just have a question.
I haven't even started. Go for it.
No, okay, it was a MicroPython question. The important thing is that you know, MicroPython and PyDot should have, as much as we can, parity in terms of what they can do. And can you confirm that it's the 2_JS problem that MicroPython is missing, that doesn't let you?
No, it's not that.
It's not that. Okay. Can you let me know what that is, because that's going to end up on the ever increasing list of things we should be asking Damien to fix.
Yes, it's super technical though, and it's not strictly related to this demo, but the issue is that MicroPython proxy doesn't have all the reflect utilities.
Okay.
So for
Okay.
instance,
Okay. I don't want to stop your demo, but just so that we know, could you email me that and I'll
oh, okay.
put that on the I'll put that on the issue for Damien.
Yeah, but just for context sake, whenever you do some isProperty in object, there's some proxy MicroPython that doesn't have a has handler. The has handler throws out of the box, and I've discovered that more handlers throw out of the box, and I have also hints for Damien to solve these, or
Yep.
maybe I would just file a pull request.
Yep.
But yes, unfortunately for this demo today, and I couldn't manage to rebuild MicroPython, but I'm sure once those little quirks are solved, it's going to work on MicroPython too. So that's the thing.
Hey, Andrea, I got
seeing, yes.
Very quick clarifying question. So these are 3 iframes, I assume. So you're rendering 3 different websites basically in one.
Nope. So these are 3 different main map, worker map, hybrid map.
Oh, okay.
I can explode this is leaflet. Again, this is just leaflet being awesome. It's not me doing anything special about it. I'm just using leaflet as a reference module that really needs the main thread to work for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's CSS dependent. So if I don't have in my head the, I don't know if you can even see this, but maybe I will just show you the actual page here. And I can also zoom in if this is, if I manage. Can I manage? No, I can't manage.
Line 9 really is what we're looking at, isn't it?
Okay, so can you see better now?
Yep.
This is leaflet CSS, and then there is the leaflet JS, which is something that is based, I don't know if these days is based on just CSS translations or if it's based on Canvas. I have no idea, to be honest. And it's not really important. It just works out of the box on any web page, but we want leaflet to work out of the box on PyScript too. So the setup of this page is just some meta, UTF-8, mobile friendly, blah, blah, blah. I have this main map, worker map, hybrid map. I set up the head of each map, and I have this H3 with margin bottom 0. This is not really interesting. It's just how you see the layout right now. And there is an HR, basically, a very quick and simple HR between maps. So here, this is actually PyScript core. I'm running in my local host, of course, and but the PR is already up and running, and tests are green, so everything is cool. What is not necessarily super cool is that I made that the whole implementation. We had the discussion, but I want to be sure that everyone is aligned with what's going on. So first of all, we decided that we want to have a JS module, and this is the module's TOML file used as a PyConfig to tell the PyScript that there is a config with JS module, and JS module follows the recent files. We also have files, and it's always the same, is source target with modules, and this requires documentation, which is not written yet, also because I want to be sure everyone agrees with what I'm building. So right now is source target, so it's pretty straightforward, and the source in this case is a CDN. It can be a local file, it can be anything actually, but the target is important because it has to be a module that you can import or require, or no, actually requiring, not in Python word. You need to be able to import this name. So whatever file you are importing, or as a JS module, has to be reachable through, I would say, both JS and Python friendly name. And so in this case, I'm using script type PyDot. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. This is PyScript, which is the thin layer behind PyScript, and is what provide PyScript functionalities. But because PyScript is handling all the interpreters and config parsing and all the things that PyScript doesn't really care much about, because it's just offering layers on top in terms of API and everything else. So this is actually landing in PyScript, and it will land in PyScript right after, as soon as we agree that this is the good way forward. And so in this case, instead of script type Py, I'm explicitly, because PyScript doesn't have a PyScript implementation, it has row interpreter implementation, either PyDot or MicroPython or even Lua script or whatever, Wasm, whatever it is. And in this case is mimicking somehow the same thing that I would like to offer in PyScript. So imagine that this is going to be Py instead, and the config is going to be the same. So every PyScript thing that we can use inside the module is going to, inside the config is going to be here. And in this case, we are adding JS modules. I've chosen JS modules because ESM is not a friendly name. People just think from Python world or from different programming languages that JS is all they want as a module. But it's important to remember that this has to be ESM module, not any module. So again, irrelevant for this demo, but what I want to show you is the different approaches that this page offers. So PyDot. So imagine PyDot is the default PyScript interpreter. So we are like, whenever you read script type PyDot, imagine script type Py. So in this case, I'm using PyDot FFI because what I'm doing in the main config, I'm using JS modules, this file and leaflet, to actually register. There is a PyDot feature called register JS module, and I'm registering exactly that imported module into the PyDot environment. So I can use Pythonic way of importing things, like import leaflet as L. I'm using L capitalized because all the demos around leaflet are using this L, because it used to land as a global L reference. And the only thing to be careful about is that with PyDot, for some reason, and I think I need to talk to Hood at some point, for some reason, we always need to convert to JS stuff that lands into JS words. So in this case, I have a list, has to be converted into a JS array somehow. And theoretically, we should also remember to destroy the reference and all this kind of stuff. But for demo's sake, I'm just doing to JS a list of coordinates. This is latitude, longitude. Mark is where we show the pop-up. The pop-up is the marker. The marker is this blue marker on the map. And then we have also the pop-up later on. But in this case, where I'm just bootstrapping a map, which is l.map main map. This is the ID, the div ID where I want to show the map. And set view center is the lat long and the zoom value, and that's it. So this demo is going to be repeated in the rest of the page, and I'm rightfully so adding the credits attribution to leaflet, and also at the same time specifying the tiles server provider. So you need there's a lot of logic behind rendering tiles, but basically the tiles work with the ZXY, and ZXY are all coordinates that you can see sometimes. You see they are all actually squares, right? And they're squares that fades in, fades down, and this is all based on the OpenStreetMap, lovely free service. And so yes, that's what I'm using. OpenStreetMap is one service that provides all the tiles, and the tiles again are these squares that translates into coordinates, and provides you as much as you zoom in, provides you more and more and more and more details. And so you can see all this kind of interesting stuff, including these buildings. And that's it. That's on the main, but the main is not as interesting as the rest, because the main was possible before with PyScript Classic. And so let's see what can we do with workers. Some quick background. Nicolas said after the discussion, let's start simple and then we see what we can do. So the worker, starting simple with the worker with a project that only works on a real DOM, so on the main thread. It was simple in theory, but not so simple in practice. But at the end of the day, I thought, how about I just land explicitly via script type module, I land the leaflet module as a global reference window. This is global. This is like window for who's not friendly with the global this reference. Global this is a better window reference name for JavaScript. And in this case, global this leaflet is this module that I just imported. When script time module is on the page, we are sure that this is gonna be available. If it's not a dynamic import, is a direct import, it's gonna be available before the rest of the page goes on, and it's not blocking. So this is actually not too bad. And in this case, I'm using the X worker or cross worker, which in PyScript is abstracted somehow way where you just import either window or document, and all the features from the cross worker are easier to reason about and easier to deal with. But in this case, because I'm using PyScript directly, I'm using the cross worker to proxy behind the scene the window and the leaflet. So whenever this Python code runs, I'm sure that L will point exactly at this leaflet module. So I'm landing leaflet module on the global this as a leaflet reference, which is kind of obtrusive if you think that we are stealing a global leaflet namespace or reference for every other script possibly on the page. But at the end of the day, this works really well. So if I didn't want to do this, I could have done leaflet script, blah, 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 and do the same here, like L work, X worker is window leaflet PyScript. Now, the cool part about the worker is that it's based on a full window proxy, and the full window proxy behind the scene already converts every argument, every object, every complex thing into a JavaScript, because of course there's a lot of back and forward within the worker and the main. Well, not a lot, but there is some back and forward, and it makes literally no sense to invoke JavaScript things on the main word with a Python reference in the worker word. So that's a plus, I think. So no foreign interface, not to JS, nothing to worry about. We just set the center, the mark, we have a map, and that's it. And in this case, we are seeing the second entry here, the worker. It works exactly like everything else, no issue whatsoever. What I think, go.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. It's 5 to the hour, which puts us more than a third of the way through the meeting. I know we've got 2 more.
I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Just thank you for your patience. Just politely, just intervening there. Yeah. Okay,
yes.
Go for it. Finish it off then. Thank you.
Last version of this, the hybrid approach. What's a hybrid approach? And I know Python people don't like the too many ways of doing the same thing, but there must be a way to disambiguate between the register directly as a pyodide module, land on the main, and this one, which is the hybrid approach. So the hybrid approach is that there is a proxy in the cross worker, which is called JS modules, exactly like the field in the pyconfig. And here, as you can see, I don't need to import anything. I don't need to land on global this anything. I'm just basically importing the JS module from the cross worker, and I'm saying L cross worker JS module leaflet. And this behind the scene does a little orchestration, it's not too much, to do pretty much the same thing in here, but without polluting the global disk with a lot of potential namespaces. So there's still one single namespace that is needed, which is a map, but this is doing the same. And this is actually the way forward to me to make it work either on the main or in the worker transparently somehow behind the scene through PyScript, which is the purpose of PyScript, to simplify all these kind of quirks. And so you will import from PyScript JS module, and you just land jsmodule.leaflet, and you will see the layer, and everything should work as expected, as it does in here. And
Okay,
I'm done with
Andrea,
yes.
Martin has his hand up with a question. Sorry for interrupting, because I know you can't see the hands up because you're sharing your screen. So
actually, I could if I would pay attention, but I'm checking my code. So Martin, please.
Martin, ask away, matey.
No worries. So just a question. I don't know whether it's like technically infeasible or, but to me, in like my mental model is importing JS modules. Could that be within the worker? Instead of saying L equals xworker.jsmodules.leaflet, could we say from JS modules import leaflet?
I'm not a Python guru, as you know, but I'm trying to quickly rewrite how this will look like in PyScript.
Yeah,
so from PyScript, right now you can import window, document, and in this case, JS modules. And that's basically all you need to do in PyScript. Right. Because in this case, first of all, if you use the word import in Python, it breaks. I didn't know that. I just realized and discovered recently this. So in this case, we have JS modules. JS modules are defined in the config, PyConfig thing, and you just directly grab the leaflet, in this case module, that's going to work out of the box. And so this is what I'm thinking about. And here I'm using map. It could be like document body instead. So here is how this would translate to me in PyScript world. You still have JS modules, and from JS modules, you just grab whatever name you decided to land as a module in your TOML file. This is the important thing, because you need to disambiguate eventually their names and conflicts and stuff.
That's just a convenient. If you go back to the code, Andrea, yeah, so that line 78, right? That's just convenience to bind it locally. But I could say potentially, right? I could say from PyScript.js modules import leaflet, and then I can just, if I wanted to not use the capital L thing, right? I could then leaflet.map, leaflet.tile layer. Could I do that?
So this, I will say it should be possible, but I think Antonio will answer for me.
He's not on the call.
Oh,
yeah.
But basically, I think from PyScript JS module, import leaflet should work. There must be a way to make it work, because PyScript is a module, is a Python module, and I think we can directly offer these out of the box. And so actually, I've done something silly. Well, right, this is the final goal. And I think this should be possible in Python, but Python is not my best domain of knowledge. I'm just trying to offer behind the scene in the JavaScript world what could work. And I think this is the most elegant and best solution I could think about, but I haven't tried. And maybe it just works already as that. I can't do this now because I don't have a PyScript namespace in here.
I think what Martin, hi guys, I think what Martin is actually asking is from like the JS module, like, is that true? Like JS, specifically import JS, and then from there, no, not that one.
No, yeah, it was really just.
So this import JS, this is just pyodide thing. From PyScript, we don't use that. We don't suggest that, because we have this will work both in the main thread and in workers, while if you import JS in the worker, the JS doesn't have a document and will probably have surprises for you if you expect the JS from the main thread. So the Pyodide.js is a story that works perfectly well on the main thread. It's proxying the global disk or the window. In PyScript, we have from PyScript import window, which is automatically translated as the Pyodide.js in the main thread, and the Pyodide window proxy to the real JS word in the worker. So that's the difference. It's
okay.
subtle to reason about, but that's how it is.
I just want to interrupt, and I must apologize, Andrea, for
interrupting. I've done. So
I've got my teacher hat.
Yeah.
I notice Martin has a question, and then for the sake of time, we should go to Chris to do his demo. So Martin, ask away, please.
Yeah, it's not really a question, but the thing I like about this, Andrea, is because as a PyScript user, like I look at this and that line 76 now feels like, in my mental model, I don't really care whether it's JavaScript or Python, really. I mean, obviously I do it to some point, right? I've got the notion that as a user, I'm importing some module and using it. So this makes it very clear to me. I look at it from PyScript JS module, right? I know it's coming from my JS modules, which I kind of need to know, but then the import leaflet, yeah, I really like that, because to me, it's clearer as a mental model as a user.
Yeah. Well, I just to back you up with that, Martin, what I really like as well is that with the TOML file, you're doing all the I don't have to stick crap in my header, in my HTML head tag with scripts, to get a whole bunch of stuff. We can talk about this elsewhere, like on Discord or whatever. But what happens if the JavaScript library, as Leaflet does, requires some CSS and things? We might need to figure out how you get references to those other sort of related things. But the point is that I think what we should do now is for the sake of time, let Chris give us his demo, because he's next in the agenda. So Andrea, could you perhaps stop sharing your screen, because only one person's allowed to share their screen at the moment. And Chris can
Nicholas, why don't you go first, because your topic seems to be...
I'm going to be very, very quick. Just so that you know, I'll be very, very quick. Chris will go, then Ted will go. It's lovely to see you, Ted. And then that's the meeting. So my item is essentially the next release. It's just a go, no go around the room. If anybody has any reason why we shouldn't do a release tomorrow, and that'll be a 2023 11.2 release. So Maduro, that will mean you'll have to update all the examples, but we know that this is going to have to happen anyway. Andrea, are you all right that the current state of main and everything is, you've managed to land all the things that you've wanted to land? And anybody else?
I would like to land everything, but I'm happy with the current state.
Okay. I asked last week who would like to press the deploy, new version button, because I did it last time, and it's important that everybody feels confident about this. And I just heard grasshoppers, so I'm going to do that tomorrow. But I will tell people I'm going to be doing this, and I will be sharing my screen on Zoom so people can see me do this. As Ted will tell you, it's a very simple process and takes about 2 minutes. It's not frightening whatsoever. Okay, but if you want to join me, I'll make sure that Anacondiacs, I'll mention that in our internal Slack channel, and I'll also mention it on Discord as well. And I'll do that probably around lunchtime tomorrow, so that US folks have a chance to join if they want to as well. If they're up for breakfast with a nice hot coffee as well. Okay, so without further ado, that's me done, and we've got 2 more to go. So we've got Chris and we've got Ted. We've got about 25 minutes, so if you could keep it to around 10 minutes each, so that we've got enough time to fit everything in. But Ted's is only 5 minutes anyway. Okay, Chris, you've got about 15 minutes then. Take it away, Chris.
Okay. So last week I demoed LTK, which is a very thin layer. It's about 60 lines of Python only, to allow you to write user interfaces. So you basically got like panels, HBox, VBox. You have all the input widgets. And the way this works is like, here's a custom widget. So it looks like a card with a picture inside. So you declare a class. It's a subclass, in this case, of a vertical box, because they're like vertically below each other. And I basically add an image and then a text. And this widget uses a special class, so it's a custom widget, and that is retrieved from your CSS. And that does the styling, like the orange border. Well, actually, I did that by hand here, but so you can combine setting styles on the widget itself and whatever. There's also a pub/sub abstraction, so this allows you to write event-driven applications a little bit easier, especially if you have a worker that does work for you and comes back with results asynchronously. The communication between these two is a lot easier to orchestrate with a publish and subscribe. Now, it doesn't work on this demo because it's actually, I can't start the worker. So you can see there's an error here. It says, cannot fetch this worker. And this has to do with the settings of GitHub pages not allowing me to start a worker there. So that's, in this context, it doesn't work. So what I showed you here, this is actually, I'll run it again. So I'll say clear, and I go to pub/sub and I add some messages. So this is for me to debug actually what's going on in my distributed application. So I want to see like what are the things that are being printed and who is talking to whom. So the parties through the pub/sub will be animated here. So I'll clear again and I'll do a little bit slower. So you can see if there is I/O from the network, it's also tracked. So I have a performance observer in JavaScript that sends to Python that, hey, they downloaded this, it took this long, this many bytes. So that helps me also to analyze what's going on in my application. Anyway, so that's LTK. So what I did is I built on top of that is an application. I called it PySheets. So PySheets, so like a sheet, like a spreadsheet, built in Python. So this is built on using LTK. So you have the same logger widget at the bottom. This is optional. You can include it or not. If you don't, then it just runs like normally. And I'll restart. So to give you an idea of like the performance of it. So I'll count to 3 because it's going very fast. So you may not see it. So 1, 2, 3, and then I click, and now it's refreshing. So the first time it's a little slow because it has to go to the server, it has to wake up the Firebase instance that I have on Google somewhere that stores all my documents. So if I do this a couple of times, then you will see it goes faster. So it brings up the application and then it goes to the server. The Python code goes to the server, retrieves the list of documents, and then comes back and then renders them using LTK. So this is all like DOM generated, and there's practically no JavaScript here. This is all, the whole UI is done in Python using MicroPython in this case. So the same thing here, you see MicroPython starts 1.2 seconds because again, at GitHub pages, you have to wake them up too. So if I refresh this, you can see time goes down. So now I'm warming up the edge cache at GitHub and my browser cache, memory cache as well. So you can see like on average, it's around 200 milliseconds to load the JavaScript plus all of the Python runtime plus my entire application. And that is in 200 milliseconds. So this is instantaneous. It's like, this is really cool when you're editing in VS Code and you make a change. It is actually rendered before I switch windows, and then I'm doubting that it's actually rendering. I have to refresh to make sure that it actually is the latest version that I'm looking at. It's that fast, and it's really great for iterative development. So I'll refresh again, and now you can see like it's bringing up this application. I have 2 tiles here, so each one is a card. I can click on one. This is European cities, and this is a service call inside of it. And again, this is still MicroPython. So it is a traditional spreadsheet. So you have columns and rows. I make it smaller. You can see that it's a really big one. And each one is a rule here. So this is a function, a spreadsheet function, but this is JavaScript, of course. Sorry, not JavaScript, it's Python, of course. And this is another rule that takes whatever was produced by this guy, because it takes the items in A2. Let me make it a little bit bigger even, so you can see the font. So it takes whatever is in A2, which happens to be a dictionary because it was loaded from a JSON record and automatically transformed into a dictionary. And I can take that dictionary and then filter it to something else, like take all the countries with an L in it. So then you got England and Holland, and Germany and France don't apply. And this preview is generated to show you what the result was from that intermediate step. So this is like an IPython notebook, where you have like the editors and text around it, and you step through the execution. It's very similar. The only difference is that the UI is a spreadsheet. And it's more like a DAG, so you can see the dependencies very easily. And that's why I draw these arrows, because you can see what sort of the origin is from the data. So if I zoom out again here, here's my other tile here. I don't know why the error appeared, but this is live demos. So I hover over this guy, and then you can see the sort of the attribution, like where it comes from and all the dependencies. So this really helps debugging dependencies in your spreadsheet. So what I'm planning for is a toggle here at the top that says like edit mode or display mode. So in display mode, it would only show you the preview boxes. And there would be a little bit of UI here so that you can choose what caption to put on this particular tile. And then it renders it as a dashboard, like a panel dashboard or whatever dashboard. That's the plan there. So we go back to the UI here. We can, like if I refresh, you can see how fast it comes up. It's basically like within a second. So it's very normal performance for web applications. And you can see the flow graph here. So it gets authentication. So authentication is through Firebase. So this uses Google APIs to actually authenticate you. I have to load LTK.js, and I have to get the file for this document. And you can see the timestamps. And then at around 8:40, the worker woke up. It's like it was already alive before that, but by around 8:40, it's wake enough to start handling responses. So if I now make a change here, for instance, you will see that messages will be sent to the worker from my main thread. So it says like, please run A2 for me. And then somebody else is handling it. And then what we get back is 1, 2, and so on. So you get this sort of back and forth of information that goes back and forth. You can also show all the bugs or log levels. So this is intercepting loggers, print statements, and pops up just for debugging. So that is one example. The other example is going to be very quick. Then I'm done. This is a more traditional data science analysis. So what we have in the top left is some data. We have a data frame. This is the preview of it. And then we have 2 images. So this image is, you can see the rule for that. That's e1.plot. And we focus on profit. We can also focus on value instead of profit. And then it will re-render this guy if it didn't create an error somehow again. So this all is cached. So you can see how this whole document, like you do with IPython notebooks, this rendering is cached. So if I made a change, you see the post here. So it's got sent back to the server. If I refresh now the page, it will come back and we can see how big it was. So this is around 19K, this entire page. So that entire picture is stored. The data plus the previews is stored in Firebase on Google somewhere. So all this data is stored in one central database. So there is some problems I'm seeing. Like I built this other tool. I built this a long time ago to see when something is slow. So you see Zoom is doing something, but my browser is also running. So this particular view here can also bring the task manager. So that is a more pseudo-reliable, where did it go? Here. So the task manager, so this is the interesting one, the bike store dashboard. This is the worker thread. So that's a dedicated worker. And it's always running. It's doing something. And I'm not running any code. So I don't know if anybody here on the call is familiar with how workers are implemented, but what it's doing. But there is some code running in the worker right now. Maybe it's polling something. But now it's like 7%. Sometimes it goes up to like 90%. And when I run things, then things start to get slower over time. So I'm not sure if I'm leaking things or the worker is leaking things, but so there's still, yeah, some development needed here or refinement. But I'm extremely happy, like what the responsiveness is of the application so far, and how fast it comes up with MicroPython to do the UI, and then the worker doing basically the acting as a kernel that you would have in the IPython notebook. But with the big difference with IPython notebook that this is all written in Python as well. So a lot of dog fooding here in the round tripping.
Chris,
So that's basically it. Any questions?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Andrea's just put his hand up. Andrea, do you want to ask it away?
Yeah, not a question and not 100% an answer, but when you create a worker, the interpreter, I believe, has an event loop anyway, because it's waiting for stuff to either, so unless you shut down, you stop the worker, you will have the interpreter keep running and running and running. I've seen a spike of 27 CPU, and that was scary, but overall I expect the worker to take, yeah, now it's even worse. And so I'm expecting the worker to keep running. It should consume some CPU, but being this MicroPython, I don't understand why is this high, and leaks should show up in the memory footprint, which is nowhere in your task manager.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the largest I've seen it grow is like a gig. And I didn't use it.
I don't understand why you have 4 dedicated workers when you probably just need 1.
I only create 1.
Okay, so this is weird.
I think
I will have a look. I was just about to say, is this the tool counting the same worker 4 times, or what does
I don't know. I haven't analyzed this at all.
What does the Chrome developer tool tell you is happening? Is what I would ask.
This is my trusty friend. I have this running all the time.
Everybody's trusty friend, Chris. We're all intimately familiar with this. So also the fact that it keeps spawning messages, it means it's still alive, it does something, and maybe that's the spikes you're seeing.
No, these messages are actually from the UI. So these are, it doesn't produce any output, and it doesn't run any of my code. Something is happening. So these are from the front end. So these are from MicroPython. This is because I'm moving the mouse. I'm triggering the app to actually go to the server and see if there's any changes in the document, because this is live sharing with other people. So does this involve anyhow, because the MicroPython MJS is all over the place. So does this involve anyhow stuff into the interpreter in the worker, or this is MicroPython the main communicating with MicroPython in the worker, or okay. So I'm using worker sync.
Hang on a second. Hang on. I don't wish to interrupt.
Let's not dive deep.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. I think I would love to be a fly on a wall with Chris and Andrea in a Zoom call, and we could really go into the guts of this. But I also know we've got an hour sort of advertised time limit as well, set time out. Yes, thanks, Ted. And Ted has 10 minutes left to demo his stuff. So my request for folks is, Chris and Andrea, perhaps you could connect on Discord, have a discussion over there, and let's try and work out why we're seeing 4 workers when we're only expecting 1. There, Martin, you've got your hand up, so quickly. You're muted, matey, as well.
Yeah, just for Chris, that's awesome. That's really,
Yeah.
really cool what you built.
Yeah.
And then, because one of the interesting things always for me has been, I've wanted to do for ages, right, is because my last gig was using Firestorm, Firebase, the Google Cloud stuff. It seems such a natural fit to be able to get Python, and if I can have Python talk to it. So my question, Chris, was, you said you're sharing updates. Are you using the Firebase like query snapshots to have the live link to actually get the data? Is that how you're updating the documents or the data in the spreadsheets? Or
No, right now there's no incremental update, so it's I'm sharing the whole document because it's only 30K. So I thought, like, in the future I will worry about like incremental changes and have events on the document, which will allow me to do undo as well and go back to a certain timestamp. So that is in the plan, but so far I'm just storing a document and retrieving it, and that's it.
but that's the whole thing is brilliant. Really, really,
Yeah.
really.
No, thank you.
Yeah, Chris, it's outstanding work. It really is. Honestly, I'm smiling inside. I'm aware of the time. Thank you very much for your patience, everybody. Ted, I mean, I can stay on for longer than the advertised hours, and I'm going to stay on anyway. Ted, matey, it's lovely to see you here. For those of you who don't know Ted, Ted was the he basically managed the PyScript team at Anaconda, but now he's has his own exciting startup. But Ted is always a welcome friend. So Ted, take it away, matey. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have.
Okay, so since leaving Anaconda and since kind of getting some distance from PyScript, I've wanted to come back and join the community calls. And what's fascinating is when you're outside of the tent, it's very different than when you're inside the tent. And I'll say this context that I'm seeing a problem and I want to highlight it for everyone. Because I certainly didn't see it when I was within, but now that I'm outside, I can see it very, very clearly. So I'm going to take a tour of, well, let's see. So we're gonna start on Google. We're going to type in PyScript, and hey, here's PyScript.net. That looks promising. So I go to PyScript.net, and I'm kind of interested in getting involved in it, and I kind of want to find the community call. Okay, so on this page, there's absolutely nothing about community, and there's nothing linking actively for a recurring call. There's no logical way that I would know how to get involved. So let's see. I could go to the documentation. So let's go to the documentation. Okay, so here we are on the PyScript documentation, and I could scroll down here, and it's like, oh, let me read all this crap. I'm a beginner. Yeah, okay, I'm already technical. And understand, I sort of know where the things are buried, but trying to find it again is incredibly hard. And I think, well, maybe it's just I need to go to the project. So if I go to the project, oh, there's a broken link. I guess there's a link to a license on the homepage in the docs. Yeah. And then let me see. Let me go back. Well, I know where the repo is, so let me go to the PyScript org repo and see if I can find anything in here. So there's a bunch of repos. I don't know which one's the main one, but I'm going to guess it's this one, says PyScript. And if I go to PyScript, oh, okay, so it's pointing me back to discussions. So I can go to the discussions, and then I can look through here, and I can't really, like, I know there's a community call, but I have no idea where to go. So let's just screw this. I'll go back to Google. PyScript community call. Okay, and now I'm looking at the community call, and now the SEO from the community call is saying, oh, okay, clearly I can click on this. Here's a Zoom link. Now, what you'll notice is the Zoom link ID changes every time we have this meeting. So any of the old links are irrelevant every single time. So we're fundamentally having people chase what is an elusive URL. But I still haven't found the real URL. So let's keep digging, because I'm sure it's here somewhere. I think the magic is I have to go to this Discord server, okay? And I have to accept the invite. So now I'm knee deep, I'm covered in Discord. And I'm going to look at the PyScript core chat, because clearly the core team would be announcing this thing. And if I go into chat, well, see, here's Nicholas, and Nicholas posted it at 10:30 community call. There's no way to find the call minutes after it's been announced. And so there's no kind of scheduling logic or like automation here to get new people in. I'm really glad to see there's new people on the call, but I think we're holding the project back in not making it easy for human beings to discover and find out the community and the deeper side of what's going on here. We're very tech heavy, but we're not very DevRel kind of centric. And I think that balance needs to shift, because this project is great. And I say that like I believe in what's going on here, but it seems very simple that there is some basic, just here's where the things are and here's how to get involved. Here's how to get started. And it needs to start. It needs to start here. There needs to be either more tiles, there needs to be a more updated cadence. Maybe there needs to be automation that publishes to the website on a regular basis. Maybe we need to see kind of, hey, here's the PyScript calendar.
Hey, Ted,
so,
can you click on that, try it out?
Try it out, yes. I don't know where I go. I go to PyScript.com. And even on PyScript.com, well, that's a dead page. Oh, there it goes.
No, here.
So I would expect there to be a calendar.
Click on trending.
Trending, okay.
Click on any of them, like view site or
like just the view site or view code. Oh.
So the problem is deeper than you think.
Well,
we need a developer advocate. The project needs a developer advocate.
Yes.
Or a few.
Yes. No, it's just there's some cleanup that needs to happen, and these little things, they add up. They send a signal that the project isn't serious, that the project is casual with how they handle their tech. And all those things lead to doubt, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which cause people to be like, I'll just continue to use JavaScript. So like, I think there's some cleanup and some sharpening of stuff here that just, I mean, understand this is all on the surface. It has nothing to do with the product itself. Nothing. It has everything to do with how it's communicated out to the broader world. And I think like projects like Fast API have done an absolute excellent job of putting community first. It is super easy to plug into that. It's super easy to plug into Django. I think there's something here that the project needs to address. And it's not hard. It's pretty simple, but it's a non-technical view of, hey, what is PyScript and what is important and what are the basic things that I need and how do I build those out? And maybe even some tests to detect, just as Chris pointed out, that there are broken links, that we're seeing 404s or the like.
So I used to work on Eclipse before.
Yeah.
And Eclipse had 6 weeks of development time and then 2 weeks of doing no development whatsoever. Nobody was allowed to work. And in those 2 weeks, you do planning and you clean up. So maybe the team requires or needs or deserves a small break. So don't do any work for 2 weeks and then just clean up everything with the team.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this: it's absolutely awesome to see everyone. Like, genuinely, like it's great to be here, and I appreciate it.
Lovely to see you, Ted, as well. It's always great to see you, and I think I don't think anybody on this call would disagree with anything that you've said. And you know, tomorrow, guess what I'm doing. I mean, we need to streamline this, and you know, all those things.
Well, also automate. Like, it really needs to be automated, so nobody needs to do a thing for all this stuff to just work. I mean, you've got GitHub Actions, you've got all sorts of cron abilities. Like, you can do this. It's achievable.
Yeah. I'd love to know with the Zoom calls. I mean, well, you were part of these conversations. Advertising an open Zoom link to people is an open invite.
Yes.
I've heard
It's a
for all
double-edged sword.
nasty things to happen. So suggestions on a postcard for how to make sure that such calls are widely shared, yet there is enough of a bump in the road.
I mean, I would subscribe to a PyScript mailing list that mailed me things on a regular cadence, and I could choose to take advantage of them. If it's delivered to me, then if somebody decides to join a meeting that, enacted inappropriately, they could be removed from the list, and thus the information disappears with them. So there's lots of ways to do it. But it's just seems like a missing piece. Yeah.
Okay. Tomorrow I will be looking at this. I think well, we're all on Discord. We can all share ideas about that on Discord. Please do. We always welcome, as we've seen here with Ted, constructive criticism and feedback, and that's the way we grow. It really is. So let's keep it up. What I will do is I'll try and communicate tomorrow the things that I've been doing, basically the release and things like that. Let's organize and try and address Ted's concerns. Cornelia.
Hello. My alter ego is actually working in marketing, well, digital marketing for a day job. Email automation expert. So if you guys need a hand.
Okay. Well, maybe you and I should drop onto a call in an ad hoc sort of a way tomorrow or Thursday, and we can figure out what tools we can use, what processes we can put in place and things like that. And hopefully by this time next week, one of the agenda items or announcements is going to be, hey, that when Ted dropped the mic, I picked it up and put it on the stand, and we have a way going forwards. But this is the strength of this team, is that we do these things. So Andrea.
I think we are closing the meeting soon. So before that, I just want to do this quickly. Martin, are you still there? I just tried from PyScript Xworker just the model import leaflet as well, and it works. So this is the result.
Hurrah!
So yeah, that's just Python doing Python things. And so I believe your concerns are solved. And before that, sorry, I started with this news. I fully agree with whatever Ted said, and I think Antonio raised the same concern. Like, we should promote better the community call and not just right before it happens, or we should have a link and everything else. And also, if you need any quick copy and paste link to test all broken links in our pages, I'll be happy to provide one, because it looks like indeed something we should have thought about before, and something we should probably do.
Perfect. Okay. Time's running out. You've all been very, very patient, and I appreciate that. We don't have a PyScript Fun call this week, so the next community call, in case you're wondering, is the same place next week. But hopefully, perhaps Cornelia and I will have organized something by then to make it more widely obvious for people. So without further ado, I'm going to stop recording,